The last time I stood here to preach, I asked us to sit with two words: Jesus wept. I focused on those two simple words from the story of the death of Lazarus because they reveal so much about Jesus and about God. The Gospel of John establishes that Jesus is the Word made flesh, God dwelling among us, which means that when Jesus wept, God wept. It's not a performance we witness in that short verse, but grief, real and unguarded, at what death costs the people we love. We carry that truth with us today into this darker, quieter space. On this day, it is customary to focus on the suffering of Christ and what his execution puts in motion for us. But today, instead of asking, what does Good Friday mean for us, I want us to consider, what did this cost God? For centuries, the dominant explanation of this day has gone something like this: God's honor was wounded by human sin, and only a perfect sacrifice could restore the balance. So Jesus died to pay a debt we could not pay. Only suffering of significant magnitude could satisfy what justice demanded. This theology, called substitutionary atonement and formalized by Bishop Anselm in the 11th century, has shaped a great deal of Christian preaching. But I want to set it aside, gently but clearly, because I think it tells us the wrong story about God. If we believe in one God in three persons, then this theory asks us to picture one part of God demanding the death of another. A God whose love must be unlocked by suffering. A God who needs to be appeased before grace can flow. But that is not the God we meet in Jesus. The God we see in Jesus is the one who seeks out the lost, who touches lepers, who weeps at the grave of friends. That God does not need payment. That God's love is not transactional. Jesus did not die to change God's mind about us. He lived and died to change our minds about God. And I think that bears repeating. Jesus did not die to change God's mind about us. He lived and died to change our minds about God. Jesus died because of what he did and who he was. He told the truth about power and about God, and he kept telling it, even after the people with authority to silence him made it clear they intended to do exactly that. He disrupted the financial engine of the temple. He challenged the arrangement between Rome and the religious establishment. He lifted up the people the empire needed to keep small. He was a threat, and threats get eliminated. So the empire did what empires do. They seek revenge. They hobble those who speak truth to power. And this is not a story about a God who orchestrated a sacrifice. It's a story about love walking openly into a world that was not ready for it, and the world doing what frightened, grasping power always does. When we looked at Jesus weeping at the tomb of Lazarus, we were not watching a remarkable human being approximate something divine. We were watching God, the Word made flesh, which means that every sorrow Jesus knew, God knew. The weight of grief, the tenderness of friendship, the sound of a voice you love, God knew these feelings from the inside, not from above, from within. And God watched the world take Jesus. At Lazarus' tomb, we saw that God does not stand above grief. God stands inside it. Today, we are asked to receive the other side of that same truth. The God who wept with Mary and Martha is the same God who watched the crucifixion, not from outside the suffering, from within it, not requiring a sacrifice, grieving it. Think of anyone you have loved deeply, a child, a friend, a partner, a sibling, someone whose life has been woven into yours. And think of what it means to watch the world treat that person with cruelty and be unable to stop it, to just stand there. That is not a perfect image. No image is. But I think it touches something real about this day. The God who made all things, who breathed life into dust and called it good, looked upon what we did to Jesus and wept. Psalm 22 opens with the words Jesus cried from the cross. My God, why have you forsaken me? That cry has always unsettled people. But I wonder if it should comfort us, because it means Jesus, in his dying, felt what we feel in our worst moments, the terrible silence, the sense that God has gone missing. Yet still he cried out. He did not stop speaking to God because his world had gone dark. We are not told that God answered in that moment. We are only told that Jesus trusted enough to ask. So here is the mystery at the center of this day. God did not prevent it. Not because God required it as a payment, but because from the beginning, God chose to enter creation fully in Jesus. Not as a visitor immune to its dangers, but as a participant subject to all of it, including this, including death at the hands of frightened, powerful people. God sent Jesus into the world as love, and love in a broken world is a dangerous thing to be. The price God paid was not extracted by some cosmic legal system. The price was this: choosing to love the world knowing what the world would do. Choosing to be present in a creation that is still learning what love asks of it. Choosing to grieve and to stay. That is the God who looks at us from the cross. Those who loved Jesus didn't get to skip this part. They stood at the cross. They heard him whisper, "It is finished." And they believed it was the end of hope, of love, of everything they had given their lives to. Now we know something they didn't. But for this one day, let us honor what they felt. Let us not hurry past the grief, not theirs, not God's. To sit with God's grief on this day is itself an act of faith. It is to say, I believe you loved him. I believe this cost you something real. I believe your love for the world did not begin or end here, even though it was broken on that cross. Lutheran pastor Eric Parker puts it simply. Because God chose to live and die as one of us, we get to die and live with God. Thanks be to God.